Secretary General, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, it's a pleasure to be here. Some of the messaging this morning is exactly what we as business want to hear. It's all about stepping out from the front, being brave, taking risk, and doing the right thing for business. It is challenging times out there in the international business community. I have the real pleasure of a fantastic lineup of some of our members and stakeholders from across the Commonwealth, so you're going to hear directly from them in terms of what they are going to say in response to what we've already heard from the high-level delegates. So if I can ask my panel to please come up and take their seats across the platform here. So Honourable Alvin Tan from Singapore first, and then Honourable Aadil Ameer from Mauritius second, and then Honourable Mbayu from Cameroon, number 3, Mr. Pedro Morena from UNCTAD, number 4, and Dr. Yemi Kale, number 5 on the end. I would just remind everybody that, you know, the Commonwealth Network is unique. It is full of trade champions. It is full of trade innovators, some of which you're going to hear about now. We're also full of trade connectors. We are the glue in the trading system. Commonwealth laws underpin 80% of global trade, 60% of global trade finance, and 80% of global shipping, not to mention commodities and other sectors that also rely on our legal frameworks. But we also have a terrific lineup this year with B20 South Africa. Here we are in Namibia with our trade ministers. And then in the not too distant future, we'll be in the Cameroon for the ministerial conference of the WTO. These moments from a business point of view are critical. They are the times when we can come together and just remind ourselves, one, how important trade is for business, why it matters to our economies, investment, jobs and opportunities, but also just take on board that the decisions we make in these buildings here over the next few days, the conversations we have an incredible impact on the global trading system. It really does matter. So I'm going to introduce my first speaker. Honourable Alvin Tan is Singapore's Minister of State for Trade and Investment, Trade and Industry. He has a terrific experience in tourism, startups, advanced manufacturing. He's led Singapore's trade engagement with Latin America and Africa. He's a former tech and finance executive at LinkedIn, Facebook and Goldman Sachs. So has a huge amount of experience in innovation, digital transformation, as well as sitting on the Monetary Authority of Singapore. If I can hand over to you, Minister.
My apologies. May we kindly request our delegates to please remain seated. We'll have a network break after the plenary. It is rather disturbing having everyone walk around and having underlying conversations. If we would kindly respect the time of our speakers as well. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, everyone, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies. Thank you for hosting me and my team at the inaugural Commonwealth Business Summit. I will be quick and I'll be sharp. First, I have 3 questions that I wanted to pose to the floor today. The first question is global trade relevant? The second question is the Commonwealth relevant? And then the third is to ask ourselves, what can we do if indeed global trade and if indeed the Commonwealth are both relevant? So I think the answer is quite self-evident. Global trade is relevant. According to UNCTAD, global trade hit a record $3 trillion in 2024. And we've talked about all the different headwinds, all of the retreat of global multilateralism, but global trade flows are increasing still, even if it's shifting in regions, even if it's shifting in the patterns of trade. Trade is relevant and it's important to all of us, not just in government, but in business, because it creates jobs, it creates opportunities, it connects businesses across borders, it connects countries across borders. And I traveled about 15 hours from Singapore all the way here because it is very important. Then the question now is the Commonwealth relevant? Dr. Shirley and I talked about the Commonwealth Games, and there are some implications to whether the Commonwealth and all of these flags that we have before us, is it still relevant? Well, I believe both the Commonwealth is relevant and Singapore as a member of the Commonwealth are also relevant and can play important roles during these very difficult times. Why? Well, because in the Commonwealth we have inherent strengths. And let's not forget, we have these inherent strengths that has been passed to us as Commonwealth countries. We have English, the language of business, the lingua franca. We have rule of law, and we have the ability to interoperate across our borders. That's a strength. In Singapore, we too have these inherent strengths. And we are, despite our small size, I was looking at our size, Mauritius is 3 times bigger than us. Cameroon is about 650 times bigger than us. Even Mauritius, you have half our population, but you're 1,126 times bigger than us. But despite that, size matters, but also size doesn't quite matter. Singapore has the world's busiest transshipment port, handling about 20% of global maritime trade. We connect over 600 ports in over 120 countries, and 37,000 multinationals have their global headquarters in Singapore. Trade accounts for 3 times Singapore's GDP and has enabled Singapore to grow our GDP from $516 per capita, GDP per capita, in 1965, which is 60 years ago, to about 80,000 GDP per capita today. So trade is our lifeblood, and this is why we are here today, to work with like-minded partners like yourselves, our friends, to fulfill our commitment to open trade and to build new architectures so that we can all thrive. Which now brings me to my third point. What then can we do? As I was speaking to my Namibian liaison officer yesterday, I asked her, what is Namibians' favorite sport? And she told me that it is football. And I went back to my hotel room, I turned on the TV, and the Club World Cup was playing. So I was thinking, if you would allow me to just frame what we can do in terms of your favorite sport, which is football. Well, first, I think we need fair and clear rules. That's one. Second, we need good teams. And third, we need fresh way of playing the sport. Why? Because if you have clear, predictable, fair rules, I think all of us will be able to trade with one another, will interact with one another. Our businesses will be more confident of doing businesses with one another. Second, you need to have good teams. And these good teams are, like the Club World Cup, you have all of these top teams playing. You need to have good groupings, like the Commonwealth, to enable the global trading system to work. And third, you need fresh way of playing. You can't just play the ball back. You need to play wings. You need to cross the ball. You need to have fresh new ways of enabling trade and investment. Let me go into each of this in just quick detail. First, fair, clear rules. That means strengthening the WTO and also the multilateral trading system. And we are working with partners to do just that, with the WTO at its core. Since the WTO's inception in 1995, Singapore has strongly supported WTO agreements and plurilateral initiatives. For example, Singapore is one of the co-conveners of the Joint Statement Initiative, or what we call JSI, on e-commerce, alongside Australia as well as Japan. What does JSI do? Well, JSI will establish baseline rules for the global digital economy. Baseline rules. And after 5 years of intensive negotiations, there are now 71 other WTO members who have supported JSI. JSIs are examples of flexible multilateralism. It enables members to make progress on WTO initiatives. But we also know that while globalization and trade have uplifted economies and businesses, there are also those who have been left behind. And that is why there is a push against multilateralism. We must therefore ensure that the benefits of free trade and fair trade are distributed more evenly. That's my point about fair rules. That's why Singapore is a long-standing supporter of WTO reform. For example, we support the multi-party interim appeal arbitration arrangement, which is a vital interim solution to preserve WTO members' right to appeal against panel rulings in WTO disputes. It's like when the referee gives you a yellow card, you can appeal the yellow card. And that's important. Those rules are important. Second, we need good teams. And that means deepening region-to-region cooperation. Asia, where I'm from, and Africa, where you are from. Beyond the multilateral level that I talked about, Singapore is also strengthening these alliances. And this is what we call the plurilateral level. And Singapore has contributed to regional architecture. Let me share 3 particular regional architectures in this regard. The first is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. That's a grouping of about 650 million people at the heart of Southeast Asia. As a founding member of ASEAN, which we call, the Southeast Asian nations is called ASEAN, Singapore recognizes that regional economic integration is important because it can foster stability in Southeast Asia. And we will continue to advance ASEAN's initiatives to promote deeper integration through initiatives such as ASEAN Plus One Free Trade Agreement, as well as RCEP. Which brings me to RCEP. What is RCEP? It's the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. RCEP is the world's largest trade agreement. I know you have ambitions for AFCFTA, but RCEP is the world's largest trade agreement. It involves 15 countries in the Asia-Pacific and covers over 30% of global GDP and 1/3 of the world's population. Then you have the CPTPP. That's the successor of the TPP. CPTPP brings together about 12 economies to enhance market access and to deepen supply chain. Where is the Commonwealth in all of this? Well, we believe that the Commonwealth has great potential to participate in economic cooperation. We mentioned earlier on that Commonwealth members already account for 15% of global trade, and the value of intra-Commonwealth trade exceeded $880 billion just last year. And initiatives such as the Commonwealth Investment Network and the Commonwealth Working Group on Trade and Investment Work Plan can help to unlock these potential. So good teams as well as fair rules. Finally, we need to come up with fresh playing styles. And that's capitalizing on new and exciting areas of trade. What is Singapore doing in this regard? Well, we are working with partners to facilitate new playing styles. For example, we have pioneered initiatives to facilitate cross-border trade in digital products and services, as well as carbon credits. So digital and green. On digital, alongside our friends from Chile and New Zealand, Singapore founded the Digital Economy Partnership Agreement, DEPA. DEPA we formed it in 2020. What does it do? It includes rules, standards, and frameworks in areas such as cross-border data flows, paperless trade, I think Minister mentioned earlier on, as well as other aspects of the digital economy to enable businesses to transact digitally across borders. I think it's really important now in the digital age. There is now growing interest in DEPA, so I encourage your countries to also express your interest. Republic of Korea joined us last year, and we just concluded discussions with Costa Rica to join, and they will probably join this year. Another 7 countries have also expressed interest to join, and I welcome Commonwealth members to join DEPA. Finally, on green and sustainability, another new way of playing. To address climate change, Singapore is working with like-minded countries, including Commonwealth members such as Brunei, Ghana, as well as Rwanda, to operationalize Article 6 of the Paris Agreement by enabling the generation and cross-border transfer of high-quality carbon credits. This catalyzes investment, scaling climate finance, and strengthens our collective transition towards a low-carbon and sustainable global economy. Last year, I was in Dr. Shirley's home ground of Ghana, and I brought investors because we signed a carbon credit agreement with Ghana. And there are investors that are keen to invest in places like Ghana, accrue carbon credit. So I think this is a new important area that we can look into. So ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we all know now that the world order is changing, and the world order changes from time to time, from era to era, from epoch to epoch. We must not just navigate these times, but we must evolve to stay in touch with these times. So we can and we must make fair, clear rules to strengthen multilateralism, We must find and form good teams to build new partnerships, and we must also adopt fresh playing styles in the areas of digital and green. Not to ensure that global trade or the Commonwealth remains relevant. That's relevant, but that's not quite relevant too. But the real reason why we are doing so is that if we open these pathways to trade and investments, then our small and medium businesses and our people will be availed to good jobs and good livelihoods. With that, I thank you all for listening to me, and I wish you all a very good conference. Thank you very much.
Well, Minister, you just perfectly illustrated the role of the Commonwealth at international level. If anyone hasn't been to the WTO, I would highly recommend you do. You see Commonwealth countries over and over again knitting together different agreements, driving forward with new ideas. It's the way we work together as a family at international level as well as a group is really impressive. And with that note, from one innovative trading economy to another, I'd like to introduce Honourable Aadil Ameer as the Minister of Industry for SMEs and Cooperatives in Mauritius, four-term elected member of the National Assembly for Port Louis Maritime and Port Louis East, also a seasoned professional in finance and former senior roles in Ernst & Young and Deloitte, specialising in audit and transaction advisory. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Southworth. Honorable Selma Ashipala Musawi, Minister of International Relations and Trade, Namibia. Honorable Shirley Botchway, Commonwealth Secretary General. Honorable Alvin Tan, Minister of State for the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Singapore. Honorable Felix Mbayu, Minister Delegate to the Minister of External Relations of Cameroon. Mr. Pedro Manuel Moreno, Deputy Secretary General, UNCTAD. Let me acknowledge our local host here in Namibia, namely the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, the Namibia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Namibia Local Business Association. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is both an honor and a privilege for me to speak on this important subject. Today, trade is unfolding against a backdrop of geopolitical tensions, supply chains disruptions, trade imbalances, inward-looking policies, climate shocks, and inequitable access to digital technologies. According to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, Report Foresight 2025, the Global Policy Uncertainty Index has reached its highest level this century. This uncertainty is negatively affecting business confidence, and planning. Operators no longer have long-term visibility on export markets and orders. The new geopolitical context presents significant challenges for developing countries, particularly small economies. The ongoing trade war is expected to result in slower growth in the world's leading economies, including the United States, unless trade differences are resolved. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has revised its global output forecast down to 2.9% for this year from 3.3% in 2024. This situation increases the risk of further fragmentation between developed and developing countries, and of deepening the marginalization of small island developing states. There is a growing tendency for countries to turn inward, prioritizing domestic concerns and favoring bilateral agreements over multilateral cooperation. In light of these challenges, it is vital for Commonwealth member countries to remain united and adopt forward-looking policies to harness the benefits of the Commonwealth advantage. According to this concept, Commonwealth countries trade 20% more with one another than with non-Commonwealth nations and incur 21% lower trade costs. It is therefore essential to consolidate and build on this advantage. I wish to emphasize that the deliberations of the Working Group on the Trade and Investment and the Sub-Action Group on Investment are steps in the right direction. I am pleased that Commonwealth countries provided constructive feedback to enhance the initial work plan on trade and investment proposed by Mauritius. At the Trade Ministers' meeting starting tomorrow, the work plan will be officially launched. I hope this will generate the necessary momentum to deepen trade and investment links within the Commonwealth. I am also mindful of the diversity within the Commonwealth and therefore believe a step-by-step approach is most effective way forward. Let me highlight that the main objectives of the work plan include, inter alia, to enhance the intra-Commonwealth flow of goods and services and investments to boost economic growth, to facilitate the movement of business persons, to promote environmental, social, and corporate governance, to improve climate-related standards related to trade and investment, and to strengthen cooperation to promote SMEs. To ensure effective implementation of these strategic objectives, it is important that the Commonwealth to foster strong linkages with organizations such as the World Bank to avoid duplication of efforts and to optimize its impact. To ensure allow me also to point out that the global trading environment is in constant evolution, driven largely by technological breakthrough that create both new opportunities and challenges. The World Economic Forum has recently emphasized the urgent need to build a policy framework that reconciles trade with the rapid evolution of AI. In this regard, the Commonwealth must closely monitor the trade-AI nexus to fully harness the benefits of this technological revolution. I believe that this is a matter worthy of consideration by the trade ministers. The relevant Commonwealth Working Group could also begin examining the intersection between trade and AI and explore the potential use of AI in trade facilitation. On a related note, we must ensure that SMEs across Commonwealth have access to digitalization. While global internet access is increasing, we must tackle foundational issues such as broadband infrastructure and digital literacy. Advancing digitalization in the Commonwealth is critical for inclusive growth, economic resilience, and social empowerment. Let me now say a few words on the theme of resilience. In the face of global economic turbulence and uncertainty, we must listen to the concerns of our economic operators, workers, and citizens. Many businesses are worried about rising trade barriers, increasing freight costs, and ongoing supply chain disruptions. In these circumstances, it is essential that we adopt the right policy mix to build domestic capabilities, diversify economic partnerships, and prepare for external shocks. The 2025 and 26 budget of Mauritius seeks to unlock innovation through research and development and AI, both crucial pillars for sustainable economic resilience. Other key factors include infrastructure development, workforce upskilling, and environmental sustainability. Given their vital role in job creation and inclusive growth, SMEs must be at the heart of our discussions, deliberations, and strategies. Their agility makes them key players in building stronger economies. Resilience is critical to their survival. and it is a responsibility of governments to provide the right support, conditions, and ecosystems to help them navigate the current global challenges, which unfortunately have become the new normal. A coordinated multilateral approach focusing on capacity building, best practice sharing, and inclusive policy frameworks will be essential for their continued development. This in turn will enhance the resilience of our economies. The government of Mauritius recognizes the vital contribution of SMEs to both wealth creation and employment, and their ability to adapt in the face of global shocks. In this context, the government has introduced tax incentives and other support measures to encourage SME to adopt AI technologies and improve their operations. Let me stress, ladies and gentlemen, that in our efforts to help SMEs remain resilient amid global disruptions, governments should avoid excessive control. Our role must be to foster innovation in products, services, and business models. SMEs value flexibility and often find innovative pathways on their own terms. With these reflections, I conclude my remarks and thank you once again for your kind attentions and commitment to our shared goals.
Well, thank you very much, Minister. So my next guest is the Honourable Minister Mbayu, Minister for External Relations and Cooperation with the Commonwealth from Cameroon, who will be hosting us in March next year at the Ministerial Conference with the WTO. He has a long distinguished career as a diplomat, both in-country and overseas, and at the UN, was the representative for Cameroon at the United Nations in New York, and is also a highly decorated individual with a National Order of Valor and Order of Merit. Over to you, Minister.
Good morning. I would have preferred